Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. So the international break is now over, thank God, and we are back to watching Liverpool play football in the Premier League. And kicking us off after the international break, Liverpool are taking on Manchester City at the Etihad on Saturday afternoon in what is really our first big game of the season. I know I said that about the game against Arsenal, but I think as good as Liverpool were in that game, Arsenal didn't exactly give us a run for our money in that match. So hopefully this game is going to give us our first real idea of where Liverpool stand in regards to the Premier League title race and where they stand compared to their other rivals in the Premier League top six. And hopefully it will boost all of our hopes and give us much more optimism going forward into the season and into the Premier League title race. Because as well, putting it simply in terms of the title race, another 3 points, we're still only 2 points off the top, and that's still if Man United win. So this is a crucial match for Liverpool. It's a great way for us to lay down a marker and a good way to get another 3 points in this Premier League season. So with regards to my actual thoughts going into this game, personally, I really think this one could go either way, and a lot of it depends on what kind of Man City team turn up for me, because I think Liverpool will absolutely definitely turn up for this game. I mean, of all the games this season, if there was one game that you could almost guarantee Liverpool were going to put in their absolute best performance in a match, I think this game is it. And it simply comes down to whether or not Man City can match Liverpool in terms of that level. But I mean, we're in such good form at the moment. Obviously, there's a chance that the international break will have curtailed that and maybe had a bit of an impact. But I think the fact that we played so many games at the start of the season, you know, we were playing Saturday and then we were playing midweek and then weekend and then midweek again. I think that 2 week rest will have actually benefited us, whereas last season when we only played weekends, it kind of affected us in a negative way because it interrupted our flow. But this time I think it's given the players and the coaching staff time to regroup, time to look at where they've come so far and hopefully assess for the season ahead and work out how to continue our good form. So I would fully expect Liverpool to put in a fantastic performance in this game. So obviously the big talking point going into this game is Philippe Coutinho and whether or not he will have any part to play in this match. And there have been quite a few interesting developments in this today, because obviously he came back from Brazil yesterday on a private jet flight straight after he finished his international games for the World Cup qualifiers, and he rejoined training today, and all things considered, he looked fairly happy to be there. I mean, it certainly looks like all these reports that, you know, he's miserable and he's been crying his eyes out before games and he's in a deep dark hole of depression that no one can possibly pull him out of. I think it looks like that's all been a load of rubbish, really, to be honest. Either that or Moreno is just absolutely his best mate. It does seem like Moreno's been told to just basically be glued to Coutinho in training, because we know they're good friends. We know Moreno's like the Joker in the pack. He's a bit of a comedian. He gets everyone laughing, especially the South American guys. So clearly I think he's been told to perk Coutinho up and make him happy. But Coutinho, he seems happy, and he seems like he's happy to just get on with the job. It doesn't look like he's going to sulk or all these rumours of him going on strike and not playing Champions League football. It looks like that's all a load of rubbish as well. So I don't think there's going to be any issues with regards to that. Jurgen Klopp has also spoke about Philippe Coutinho fitness-wise and how I think it seems like he's not quite ready for this game. Jurgen Klopp said about how he hasn't actually played that much Premier League football, that much competitive football so far this season. He's only played 45 minutes for Brazil. I mean, even they only brought him on as a sub in their 2 matches, despite the fact he played very well in both of those performances. So I don't think he's necessarily going to start this game. It seems like Jurgen Klopp is going to do what he has done with players in the past when they've been out of the first team setup and give them a kind of a mini pre-season, because Coutinho did effectively miss the very end of pre-season as well as the start of the competitive season. So it kind of makes sense to ease him back into things. So I certainly don't think he'll start this game. However, Jurgen Klopp did say that he looks very good in training. He looks sharp. He looks like he's playing very well. We've all seen in pre-season that it seems like Philippe Coutinho has really stepped up a gear this season. It looks like he might finally make that leap to being a world-class player, which is fantastic to see. So I think Jurgen Klopp will certainly be tempted to use him in some capacity in this game. So while I don't expect him to start this match because of fitness issues and everything, I think with him being, it seems like he's been perfectly reintegrated into the squad. Everything's fine, and he is obviously playing very well, so I would expect to see him at some point during the match coming off the bench. And I think it is good to see that the Phil Coutinho saga basically seems over for now, at least, because I think there was this kind of worry with how long it rumbled on over summer, and it seemed that there might be bad blood between, say, Jurgen Klopp and Coutinho, or even Philippe Coutinho and the fans. But it seems like everyone's just getting on with it, which is a very good thing, because there was this worry that maybe it was going to hang over things and this Coutinho was apparently going to go on strike, or maybe he wouldn't play as well, or he wouldn't be happy playing for Liverpool. It seems like he's perfectly happy to just get down to business and do a job for the team. So that is fantastic to see, because obviously while Liverpool have been playing well without him, we know how good Philippe Coutinho is. We know how much he has to offer to this Liverpool team. So it is only a good thing if he is back and firing on all cylinders for us. So nice to see that everything, for now at least, seems to be completely resolved. So with regards to any other team news going on at the moment, there doesn't seem to be any other fresh injury concerns. Obviously, we found out this week that Nathaniel Clyne's injury is going to keep him out for a very long time. He's not in our Champions League squad, so we certainly can't expect him to start this game or any other games for the near future. Adam Lallana, obviously still out. Apart from that, I don't think we have any other major injury concerns. So everyone else is available. So with regards to the starting 11, in goal, of course, first, I think it's going to be Simon Mignolet. There is obviously that little shout for Loris Karius because he did start the game quite surprisingly against Arsenal, and while Jurgen Klopp did say that was simply to rest him, there could potentially be ulterior motives to that. But I think given Karius' performance wasn't necessarily the best, I think it's safe to say. I did say in my post-match video that I wouldn't judge Loris Karius on that, and I'd still back him to turn out to be a good goalkeeper for Liverpool. But I think based off of that performance, I think if he puts in something like that against Man City will do a much better job of exploiting his weaknesses than Arsenal did. So I think it would be a huge risk to play Karius. So I think Klopp might play it safe this time, put Mignolet in goal for this game. Centre-backs, Matip and Lovren, they kind of pick themselves at the moment. Obviously, there's always a shout for Klavan because Lovren is a bit iffy at the moment still. But I think they put in a very good defensive performance, the whole back four against Arsenal. So I would expect Klopp to maybe stick with what he's got with regards to the centre-backs at the moment. The full-backs for me is a much more interesting one. And I think that's one where when we see what fullbacks Jurgen Klopp's put out, I think that'll be a very good way of us gauging how Liverpool are going to line up in this game. Because I think there's two ways we could approach the match, really. We could either go with what we had at Anfield last season against Man City, where we look to get an early goal on the counter-attack, get up to 1-0 up, and then basically leave it at that and soak up the pressure and just keep Man City at arm's length effectively. And that worked very well. So I think it's possible, especially away from home, that Liverpool could opt for that stance. But it's also possible that we could do what we did at the Etihad last season when it was a 1-1 draw. It was just bonkers. We completely went for it. We tried to outscore Man City. Somehow the game ended only 1-1. Liverpool could quite easily have won that game because they played very well. They had a lot of chances to finish off the game as well. So I think it's possible Jurgen Klopp could go either way. And I think the fullbacks will be a big indication from that, because I think if he goes with Alexander-Arnold, who is to all intents and purposes a very attacking football, a very attacking fullback, we know he can defend fairly well, but attacking is certainly his strength. And I think if Jurgen Klopp played him, it would only make sense to tell him to bomb forward an awful lot. But if he picks Joe Gomez, then I think we could see a much more reserved performance, because obviously Joe Gomez is a centre-back by trade. His best traits are defensively, and while he is okay going forward, he was very good in the game against Arsenal. It's not necessarily his forte, and you'd expect him to sit back quite a lot. So I think if we went with Gomez, we'd be playing defensive. If we went with Alexander-Arnold, it would be attacking. Personally, because of the fact that both of them played England under-21 internationals, and we are very concerned about managing Trent Alexander-Arnold and not overdoing it with regards to how many games he plays, I think it might make sense to play Joe Gomez in this game. Simply give Alexander-Arnold a bit of rest, so then he's had about a week's recovery from the England internationals and then can play against Sevilla. So I think Gomez will start the game at right back. As for left back, I think this one is going to be Robertson, because it's effectively a toss-up between Robertson and Moreno. And I think whoever doesn't start this game against City at left back will start the game against Sevilla at left back. And I think it makes sense to play Moreno in the game against Sevilla simply because he does have European experience. He's played against Sevilla, as we all know and want to forget about, but he has experience playing European games. He's played quite a few, whereas Robertson simply hasn't. And for a game against Sevilla at home, which is a massive tie, I think it makes sense to give the nod to Moreno in that game, who's a bit more experienced and will hopefully be a bit more level-headed than he was last time he played against Sevilla. But I think Moreno plays that game, and I think Robertson plays this game against Man City, which, no quibbles with that. I think Robertson is a very good defender, very good going forward as well, got a lot of promise, and I would very much like to see him playing once again in a Liverpool shirt. As for the midfield, I think it's the same one that played against Arsenal. They all played absolutely fantastically in that game. They finally seem to be clicking in a way that they maybe weren't in previous matches. So I think the midfield, you'd go with that, and certainly because if we are going to do a bit more defending against Man City than maybe we have done in previous games this season. It is quite a workman-like midfield. Henderson, Emre Can and Gini Wijnaldum, they all know what they're doing defensively. They're all very strong as well, so hopefully we can even overpower Man City in that midfield area, because they've got players like David Silva who maybe, you know, if you give him a little nudge and show a bit of physicality, you could try and put him off a little bit. So I think that's the approach Liverpool will take. Obviously, I said Coutinho might come on with about half an hour left in this game, maybe, especially if we're chasing the game, to bring a more attacking side to our play. As for when we'll see Oxlade-Chamberlain, I'm not sure if he plays this game. If Coutinho wasn't going to play any role in this game, I think we definitely see Oxlade-Chamberlain as a sort of attacking midfield substitution. I don't think he starts this game simply because I think we've all seen him play for England, we saw him play for Arsenal, and I think it will take a while for him to bring his form up and bring himself up to speed with the Liverpool way and the Jurgen Klopp way, as it were. So I don't think he starts this game, but I think it's entirely possible that he could play some sort of role later on in the match. And then the front three, again, it picks itself basically. It's Mane, it's Salah, it's Firmino. They're the best front three in the league at the moment. There is no disputing that. You can't tell me otherwise. Otherwise, they are just simply brilliant. And yes, Firmino played some of the internationals for Brazil, so there's an argument that maybe he's a little bit too fatigued for this match. And I think maybe if we were playing like a Burnley or a mid-table or lower table team, there might be an argument for Daniel Sturridge, because I think he could do a job against those sides, or even Dom Solanke potentially. But these are the kind of games where you want Firmino playing in that false nine role, you know, moving about the pitch, trying to catch out defenders, intercept passes and everything. So I think Firmino, for all the games he's played for Brazil, has to start this game. So with regards to Man City, it is very difficult to call how they're going to go into this game in terms of form, and also in terms of formation and starting 11 as well, because they have had a fairly mixed start to the season. I mean, they haven't blown any teams away yet. They grinded the result out against Brighton a little bit. It took them a while to get the breakthrough there. They obviously drew at home to Everton, and it took a late equaliser from Raheem Sterling there to pull them back into the game. It took a late winner from Raheem Sterling as well to get the win against Bournemouth, so another result that they ground out a little bit. And they've also been changing a lot in terms of the way they set up. They started with 3 at the back for the first 2 games. They then went for a simple 4-3-3 in their 3rd game, and they've changed the starting 11 a lot. They've changed the players a lot, and I think it's kind of understandable because, as we all know, they've been on a big spending spree this summer. They've brought in a lot of different players, and so like last season, I think it is taking a while for Pep Guardiola to find out his best team. So I think it is a fairly good time for Liverpool to play Man City, in that it's kind of luck of the draw for them whether or not they pick a good team for this game. I mean, they could pick a team and they could gel perfectly. They could be like Real Madrid and they could blow us away. Or they could pick a team and it turns out that the dynamic simply doesn't work. Things aren't working for them and Liverpool could blow them away instead. So it's kind of luck of the draw in that way. But like I said, it's a good time to play them because there is that chance that things won't work for Man City. And I think Liverpool are just very, very good. And I think unless Man City play to the best of their ability, because I certainly think Liverpool will play to their absolute maximum level in this game, and I think only if Man City play to the best of their ability will they be able to compete with Liverpool, and I think if they do, they'll probably get a draw. I certainly don't think we'll lose this game. I'm fairly optimistic about it, and I think we have got what it takes to either draw with or beat Man City. And I think if they don't quite reach their top level, if they don't quite gel because of this whole, the introduction of a load of new signings into the team, Liverpool will exploit that, especially at the back with obviously new fullbacks coming in and everything, trying a new sort of defensive setup. Hopefully they play 3 at the back. I mean, Pep Guardiola, it'd be stupid to do so because he's seen what Liverpool did to Hoffenheim and to Arsenal when they played 3 at the back. So if you went into this game and thought, yeah, 3 at the back against Liverpool, against their front 3, that looks good, you're a fool. But Pep Guardiola, you know, he does strange things. He doesn't really seem to pay much attention to the other team. It always seems to be about, you know, how he wants to set the team up, how he wants them to play. So there's a possibility they could play 3 at the back. Fingers crossed they do, but I just simply don't know. But I think if Man City, so long as they don't play to their absolute maximum, I think Liverpool could absolutely do them in this game. So, with optimism in mind, it's time for my 3 reasons why I think we'll beat Man City. And starting off, I think our attack versus their defence is simply just a recipe for disaster if you're a Man City fan. Because, as I said, Man City are kind of like the perfect team for Liverpool to play. And not only is it that I think of all the games of the season, this is the one we'd be the most up for in terms of how much the players want to win this game. It's also perfectly set up for us in terms of the fact that Man City, they always play a high defensive line. You know, that's simply, like I said, how Guardiola wants to set his teams up. And even coming up against Liverpool, I don't think he'd sacrifice his philosophy too much. So we can expect Man City to play a high line, and we've seen how Liverpool counter-attack. You know, if we sit back and soak up the pressure and don't look to get forward too much, we will still get opportunities, because with the pace of Mane, the pace of Salah, and the skill and brilliance of Roberto Firmino, we'll be able to create chances on the counter-attack, and by and large, I think we'll score them. So I think just looking at the way that our attack was set up against their defence, I think it's just, it just looks like Liverpool will almost certainly get goals in this game. And secondly, once again, Sadio Mane is one of my 3 reasons why we'll beat them, because he's just so good. He showed it against Arsenal, he showed it against Palace, he showed it against Watford, he showed it in the 2 legs against Hoffenheim. He's just a dead good footballer, and the best thing about Sadio Mane now is he really seems to have found his consistency. You know, when we first signed him from Southampton fans were all like, yeah, he's good, but he only ever has like 4 good games a season or something like that. He certainly improved on that in his first game, in his first season at Liverpool, and it seems that he's upped his level once again, and he is inching ever closer to being a world-class footballer. I'd certainly mention him in that sort of bracket of the best players in the Premier League. I think Sadio Mane is right up there. He's got it all. He's got pace, he's got power, he's got trickery, he brings his teammates into the game very well, and he scores lots and lots of goals. So I think Sadio Mane, especially given that Liverpool will be doing a lot of counter-attacking in this game, I think will be crucial, and I would certainly back him to get 1, if not at least 2 goals in this match. And finally, looking at the managers, I think Klopp just seems to have a bit of an edge over Guardiola. Obviously, these two have come up against each other in the Bundesliga before, with Dortmund against Bayern. They've played a few games against each other now as Liverpool against Man City in the Premier League. And by and large, it seems that Jurgen Klopp always seems to have that extra edge. I think a lot of it to do is to do with the fact that Jurgen Klopp tends to set up his team as a whole, whereas Pep Guardiola is very much focused on, I think, an attacking philosophy, on a possession-based philosophy. And like we saw last season at Anfield, Jurgen Klopp is not afraid to switch up his tactics and slightly go against his own philosophies for the sake of winning a match. He did set the team up defensively. I think a lot of that is to do with the whole coaching staff as well as just Jurgen Klopp. But I think Jurgen Klopp just seems to have a few more tricks up his sleeve, and when it comes to playing against Guardiola, he just seems to know how to set up a team perfectly to beat that kind of system. So hopefully we can see another Jurgen Klopp masterclass in this game. It is a big match as well, which are always the kind of games that he sets the team up best for. So fingers crossed for a big, massive 3 points in this game. So that's all for today's video. I'll be back later on with the FIFA 17 prediction show for this game. Not long now before it'll finally be FIFA 18 predictors, but for now at least it's FIFA 17 predictors. If you want to check that out and it's already out, the link will be there. There'll also be another video there if you want to check that out. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it as well. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new around here. Follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter as well. And I'll see you in a bit for the FIFA 17 prediction show. Bye for now.